You want to scream, but you can't. It feels like your eardrums are going to burst.
We are renegades, this means war. We are renegades, this means war. We are renegades, this means war.
Absolutely, absolutely. Was that going to be part of the evolution? Was it something you came up with, or something that Paul came up with, or the bookers, or how did that work?
At the time, Paul didn't even know I could talk.
Absolutely, 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 absolutely. I know it's something that you've talked
back
about
on the air. I want to know, Sean Cunningham, how does it feel?
It feels so good to be back.
The life of Sean Cunningham. Anything can happen in a week. What's been going on with you this week? What have you been doing for fun?
Well, my lovely.
Tell me your fun. Tell me your pain. Tell me your sorrow.
Well, not so much pain and sorrow this week. Thank God. That's kind of, we don't want pain and sorrow. That's no fun. But
tell me your fears.
That
your insecurities.
Okay, now you're acting like Dr. Phil, but that's a whole other reference.
I'm setting it up for you, buddy. Giving you a softball here.
You are. I had the pleasure of going to Rogers Center for a Toronto Blue Jay game this week against the New York Yankees, where my lovely girlfriend and I went, and we had a good time, and the Blue Jays won, so that was good.
What was the damage?
Legit? Let's see. Maybe $45. Not too bad.
Including the ticket?
Yeah, we got tickets for relatively inexpensive. We had a friend with season tickets who could not use them, so we got them at a reduced price.
And then what, hot dog and beer?
Popcorn and beer.
Popcorn and beer.
Hot dog outside.
Oh, okay, on the street.
Hot dog on the street before you go in.
Now, is that being factored into the $45?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you guys did well then.
I think so.
And you got to see the Toronto Blue Jays.
That's right.
Josh Donaldson. For whatever reason, my mom is obsessed with the idea that I look like Josh Donaldson, and I don't know why.
With his new haircut, yeah, that's accurate. He went off and did. Have you heard of the TV show Vikings?
I can't say that I have. Why don't you explain it to me?
Well, it's about, if you.
I'm in no rush. Go ahead.
I'll do it the quick way. History Channel has put out a show called Vikings that shoots in Winnipeg. And it's about the history of Vikings, clearly, if you know anything about history. And Josh Donaldson did a guest spot on it before the season started. And he's kept the haircut. So that's where that connection comes from.
Does Rory or Robbie McAllister make a cameo in this show?
That would be Highlander. That'd be something different.
Now, Sean, we're going to get into Invasion Attack. Some very excellent matches, a really great main event, great story told. We'll get into that. We'll sort of break down what has led up to this match and the significance of this match and the significance of the aftermath, quite frankly.
I was gonna ask you about that, the aftermath, and also the crowd response during the match.
So we'll talk about that in just a second. But before we do, if you don't mind, and I can just take a second, I think I'm just going to make a little phone call here.
Okay.
And I just want to dial a number, and I'm not afraid to expose the number on the air. The number, of course, is 605-562-5189. Let's call this number. What do you think, Sean?
Okay, we're gonna call it. I'm completely unaware going into this, so.
You're listening to the Zeno Radio Network.
Let's see what.
Wait a moment.
See what comes up here.
Okay.
But as the character wrestler, I just think this is the best I've ever seen personally.
The fact that he can break the barrier of language and culture and connect with people, in North America as quickly as he did.
So for everybody out there, feel free to call the War Hotline anytime. But this is only free exclusively to our listeners in the United States.
Yes.
But 24/7 War Radio. You can also listen to it on our website, WrestlingAudioRevolution.com. And we're going to be starting to do a lot more with War Radio, including live shows, including live news updates that will appear during the day.
Yes.
All kinds of things that we've been working on. And call-in shows for those of you that want to have your voices heard on War Radio. There's a lot of people that have been getting at me lately saying we want to have...
Clamoring for the call-in show.
Clamoring for their moment in the spotlight. And you know what?
All right.
We're all about making new stars, much like New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yes.
So I think we're going to have to experiment with that a little bit. That can always be a bit of a train wreck, but that's okay, right? It's okay to experiment and have fun.
Yes, of course.
You know, that sure sounded homoerotic, but nonetheless. Yeah, so that's the number, guys. 605-562-5189. I know you're up there a lot, Sean Cunningham. Many of your historical significance pieces end up showing up on the 24/7 War Radio, so you never do know, old or new. We have a pretty deep archive.
We do.
Since 2008 that we can pull from. So you'll be hearing all kinds of gems and some new specials, I gotta say.
Specials are coming. So
now that all that's out of the way and we've plugged our new hotline,
yes,
the War hotline, 605-562-5189, I think it's time, Sean, that we get into Invasion Attack 2016 that did take place this past Sunday here in Canada, Saturday night in Japan, and it did come to us live from Sumo Hall. Now, I know WWE is planning to run another network special from Japan this year. Have you heard anything about them securing Sumo Hall for this? Is it going to be the same venue, do you know?
I am not sure. I would imagine it might be, unless they're going to go to a bigger venue, but I'm not sure why they would go to a bigger venue.
Yeah, it was kind of the perfect venue for that.
Yeah.
So I do look forward to that show if they're going to make that a yearly thing, because especially the fact that they got J Sports to produce it, it looked different, it was something different. The announcers were relaxed. So I had a ton of fun with that. So this is from the same venue that was Beast in the East for WWE this past summer. And it was headlined by Tetsuya Naito versus Kazuchika Okada. Also on the card, and we don't need to go through the whole thing, Sean, but just some of the major points of this show. Shibata took on Tenzan, and Tenzan, no matter how old he gets, he can
still looks awesome.
He can still pull out a good match when it's time to have the big match. They didn't go too long with this one, and the story's really just been that Shibata, one by one, has sort of been plucking off the old guard. His last defense was against Satoshi Kojima, the partner of Tenzan and another legend, Japanese legend, both of All Japan and New Japan. And Tenzan's got these old man knees, and he's all beat up and everything like that. But when it comes down to it, and especially when these type of matches where it's time to fight, not necessarily
he can still fight.
He can still fight. The crowd still love the Mongolian chops. Yes. And Shibata, I don't know, man. He didn't really pull a lot back with his kicks, I'll tell you that much.
No, he didn't, no. I watched a few of them, and I'm like, regardless of his age, I was just watching them land, and I was like, ouch. A lot of cringing during that match.
Right, so of course there's going to be respect there for a legend like Tenzan, and so Shibata gave it to him, and it was not a particularly long match. I think it was about 10 minutes long.
No, it wasn't long.
And just very clean finish after a lot of back and forth, very stiff stuff, and the typical Shibata style where it looks like you're being uncooperative and all that stuff. And he ends up winning with the penalty kick, and that's it. So he goes over Tenzan. He's now picked off Kojima as well, and we're in the ring. And that typical formula of New Japan that always works with their audience, and it works with me too, because they're in the ring, and it's Kojima also in there as, a second to Tenzan, and he's just in his, his warm-up suit or whatever. And there's some other guys out there, usually Jay White's out there, and David Finley's out there, and they're in the ring, attending to Tenzan, who's still down. And another gentleman is in the ring, someone many of you old-school WCW fans will be very familiar with. The great Yuji Nagata is in the ring. And it's just something as simple as Shibata walks over, and Tenzan's still laying down, and he does the bow. Shibata does the bow of respect to Tenzan. The crowd cheers, and then
turns around and kicks at Yuji Nagata.
Yeah, Yuji Nagata is on his knees, crouched down, attending to Tenzan, and Shibata shows the respect and gives the bow to Tenzan, and then just turns and just levels Yuji Nagata, kicks him right over, and then there's a big pull apart. And that's the next program. And this is a bit of a different story than Kojima, who is a great wrestler, and Tenzan, who's still got a lot left in the tank. But Yuji Nagata, he's one of my favorites in New Japan still to this day. When they give him a chance, that guy is just great. He can still go with the best of them. So this match And just the very simple setup of this being the next challenger. And you always get that same reaction from the crowd when Yuji steps up and gets in his face. It's just, ooh. And we saw that a few times during this show.
They did that 2 other times during the title matches sequences, and it worked every time.
Earlier in the card, and just sort of this will be a footnote and something that we'll come back to later, Goto has now joined Chaos. He's kind of taken the spot of Nakamura. And he had the feud with Okada, and he came up short in his title match against Okada, and Okada was able to retain the belt. And then Okada, because it was such a knockdown dragout, and he's fought this guy so many times in the past and has a lot of respect for him, he said, I want you to join my group. So Goto ends up joining Chaos, and he's sort of the top guy along with Okada in that group now. Goto's partner for this show was him and Ishii taking on Evil and Bushi, who are the other 2 members of Los Ingobernables, along with Tetsuya Naito, who will be getting the world title match against another Chaos member and leader, Okada, later in the show. So anyways, long story short, it was a good match. You could almost sense at this point, though, that Los Ingobernables has really become something that's over with the fans, as much as they try to be as nasty and downright evil, pardon the pun, as they can. It doesn't matter how much of a scumbag Naito is. They're over.
Cheered.
They're over. And their merchandise as well is selling really, really well. Not just there in Japan, but also in Mexico and also in the States. So they've become like this cult thing now.
Yeah, totally.
So a good match. Like it's not one of the main, highlights of this pay-per-view or anything like that, but a good undercard match that sort of plays into the whole story of everything. And Bushi and Evil were getting a lot of cheers in this match. Yeah. But long story short, Goto and Ishii win. They have their new sort of double team move. It's the Fireman's Carry Death Valley Driver into the knee on the back of the guy's head.
Oh.
And so, which puts the guy naturally in a sitting position. So Ishii then immediately comes off the ropes and does the sliding lariat.
And it just looks stiff as hell.
Right. So they're a team now, at least on this show they were, and they've done some other tagging together. I like them as a team a lot.
Oh my God, yeah.
So if they ever want to do something with them, going for a chase against, the tag champions, again, that's another story we'll talk about.
Another story, man.
In fact, let's get that one out of the way right now. We don't have to necessarily go in order, but I'm sure you recognize the partner of Tama Tonga. Now, I did not watch the English commentary for the whole show. Mm-hmm. Did they mention the fact that this was Camacho?
No, they didn't.
No, they
didn't mention that it was Camacho. They mentioned that it was his brother, and it was, this is, Haku's son, and they went through all that.
Right.
But they never once mentioned it was Camacho.
Okay, I didn't know if they were even able to say that on the air, that this is the former, Camacho.
No, they didn't say that.
They look great. 2 scary Samoans in face paint with, Roman Reigns bulletproof vests on. And, Tama Tonga's got the long hair, and he's great. Like, this team is all about Tonga is great, very charismatic, and Tonga Loa Camacho, the ex-Camacho, is the setup guy.
Yeah, totally. And that's the way they work, too. And they mentioned that it was interesting that the brothers had won the tag belt, and would it cause a competition or rift between them and Bullet Club Elite, referring to the Bucks and Omega or other members of the Bullet Club like Fale and...
So at least on the Ring of Honor commentator side,
yes.
They were pushing a bit of an angle of, will there be some, trouble in paradise with the Bullet Club because of this?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll see if that was just something they were doing on their own, or if that was... They seem to be not only well-researched for this show, much better than, the past shows with Stryker and Kelly. They also just seem to be much more informed with the company as to what was happening, because we saw at Wrestle Kingdom when Jarrett did the pay-per-view a year and a bit ago.
With Jim Ross and Stryker.
Right. They were very open about the fact that they were given nothing. They were given no cues. They didn't even have a voice in their head counting them down when they were going to be going to a video package or anything. So they didn't even know if they were on. Like, they just knew that they didn't know when the show had officially started. Now, that was Jarrett's, deal with New Japan. But I mean, it seems like for the last few shows with Stryker and Kelly that it was a very kind of similar thing. Like, they were just sort of flying by the seat of their pants.
Whereas this show with Carino being there seemed a lot better. And I got the sense that Carino at least does understand enough Japanese to get by.
Because of all those years, in 01 and various other things that he did. Carino being there, he does understand enough Japanese to at least be a little bit of a translator during the promos. I thought that was amazing.
Yep. And he did seem like he'd done his research and watched the product. He wasn't lost.
He's a fan. He really is a fan. Kelly was not a fan until he had to be a fan because of his business relationships.
Yeah.
And I think Kelly truly loves it. Like, I think he's extremely enthusiastic about it. He doesn't necessarily understand it yet.
But having Carino there improved the broadcast immensely.
Yeah, no, Carino's a big time Japanophile, you could say.
Yeah.
Big time into the Japanese wrestling history, culture, etc. So he was awesome on this show. I didn't watch the whole show, but I watched the majority of it in English, actually, which I've been very skeptical of in the past, as you know.
And I don't blame you.
No, but this did not ruin the experience for me at all. So other things, but regarding the GOD, the Gorillas of Destiny. Which is, again, Camacho and Tama Tonga.
Awesome name, by the way.
Yeah, they had, great name, GOD. But then they had this title match, and this was Camacho's first match in New Japan, and they were going up against Hanma and Makabe, who won those titles at the Tokyo Dome, January the 4th, and against Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, who have now shown up in WWE. We'll talk about that, too, on this show. But in this match, it went about 20 minutes. It was not necessarily a great match, but it did what it had to do. It made these new guys come off like monsters, and they won the belts after some kind of sloppy offense there at the end. But still, nonetheless,
sloppy at the end, but still good.
They're still getting the act together, even though they are brothers. This act is new, so I'm gonna give it time. They got the look, and they got something kind of scary about them, so I like it.
They do. It looks really awesome, I thought.
I have no problem with that. So they end up winning the titles, the IWGP Championships, from Hanma and Makabe. That was one of the things on the show. Something else here, the Junior Heavyweight Championship match.
Oh, good. We're going to talk about this now.
Kushida defending his title against the newest member of Chaos. And to give you the sort of backstory on this, in a 6-man, Okada ended up beating Kushida, and they kind of had a bit of a heated exchange during this match. They were on opposite sides, and Okada ended up getting the win on Kushida in this 6-man. But afterwards, he got on the mic and said, I defend my belt against you, but you're a junior. I'm going to bring in somebody to take that junior belt from you, and he's going to be the newest member of Chaos, and his name is Will Ospreay. Okada had fought Will Ospreay because of this relationship with Rev Pro. So New Japan has the relationship in the UK with Rev Pro, and Okada went over there and he fought Will Ospreay, who's one of their big deals over there in the UK. Anyways, long story short, Will Ospreay debuts in New Japan. And I know there's a lot of speculation. A lot of people probably listening to this show want to know, Luke, what do you know about Will Ospreay this summer? Is he going to be in the Global Cruiserweight Series? Is he going to be in the Best of the Super Junior tournament? Is he going to be in the J Cup? Everything I have heard so far is that Will Ospreay is a free agent. He has no contract, and he has offers on the table from both WWE and New Japan Pro Wrestling. But it's a matter of, you're a 22-year-old guy, and you don't want to burn any bridges. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to have either side upset with you or closing the door on you. So anyways, let's talk about the match.
The match was just watching these two guys fly around, and for somebody, I don't know how often they've ever worked together, maybe in England a couple of times.
I don't know that they've worked together at all, but maybe they have.
No, maybe they have. But I thought the timing was really good. I thought the flying was good. I like the story about Kushida kicking the crap out of his arm, Ospreay's arm at one point, to the point where he tried to do a handspring and couldn't do it. And you could hear him audibly scream.
Yes.
Every time he tried to put his arm down, his left arm, I think it was his left arm. And it was all part of the story. And to literally see somebody do a handspring without hands at one point, Will Ospreay jumped off the second rope, did the handspring and just didn't use his hands.
Man, you're so right about that, and you're just kind of really reminding me about how much I enjoyed this match. Because the thing about Ospreay, and people are going to kind of look at him, and if you just see him in highlight reels, or you don't necessarily watch his matches top to bottom, or you haven't seen this match, his debut in New Japan this past weekend, you'll see the highlights and you'll think, okay, I've seen this before. He's a guy that doesn't look like a wrestler. He doesn't look like a wrestler at all.
No.
If he had his normal gear on and you saw him on the street, you'd think he was one of the guys that was like working the concession. Really, you would. Or you'd think maybe he was somebody that was like ring crew or something like that.
referees.
Referee, you would not probably think he was a wrestler.
No.
And then if you just see the highlights and you see all the twists and the flips and all that stuff, because his style is like a mix of William Regal
and Lucha
and Ricochet. And I think even on the commentary they mentioned that Ricochet was a big influence on him.
Yes.
So it's like the super duper difficulty, high flying abilities of Ricochet mixed with the super hard nosed,
stiff as crap English,
technical, like very razor sharp with the technique, British style.
Yeah.
So what you have in Ospreay is a 22-year-old kid that is able to do all of the high spots that give the crowd the oohs and ahs of the new school, video game fan type wrestling. But then what he has that so many 22-year-old high flyers didn't have, including Ricochet, and he'd probably be the first to admit this, is the psychology, the ability to sell, the ability to tell a story with a body part. These are all things that 22-year-old guys are not supposed to have already mastered. Do you know what I mean? Especially in this day and age of this PWG high spot wrestling. Nothing against it. I love that style, but I mean, it can be pretty void of any real psychology or believability or realism. You know what I mean?
But to see that in a 22-year-old kid, you're just like, as a fan, you're like, oh my god, how good is he going to be in a year, 2 years, 5 years? Where, he could do anything he wants to, as long as he stays healthy.
Exactly. And, I mean, he's not even good yet. That's the thing.
That's a scary thought.
As incredible as this was, and this was one of the best of that style, of the junior style, this was one of the best matches you will see ever, probably. But certainly since the last one with Ricochet and Kota Ibushi, that's the last one I saw where it was just like, geez, this is just blows everything else away. But this was a really, really strong match. But yeah, Ospreay, the future is so bright. WWE saw him over WrestleMania weekend. They want him. They want him. He's a priority. But if you're in his position and you also have the opportunity with New Japan, which kind of came first, it's like, well, do I do this and do the best of the Super Juniors and probably have them? They're probably gonna. This is the way I see the best.
I think he's gonna win or he's gonna finish.
He's gonna be in the finals. Yeah. I have no doubt about that. He's gonna be in the finals. We were sort of marking out for the WWE thing, but I mean, if it's true that Ospreay's really gonna stick with New Japan for now, and he's not gonna be in the Global Series. And Ricochet is going to hang out in New Japan for a while, and although a lot of people really do feel like he's fading and he's going to be in WWE by the time the summer ends, he may not.
And I, based on the booking of his match, I tend to agree.
Yeah, he was essentially written out of storylines with Lucha Underground, and they put his character in a casket. And they've done that with a few other people in the past, including Conan, and it really does in Lucha Underground world mean this guy's dead.
You're done, that's it.
So Puma, a lot of people feel as though he is going to be in WWE before the summer ends, but will he be there for the Global Series or will he just be there after it? It's going to be interesting to see, and it all depends about his contract with Lucha Underground too, because it is a very exclusive contract.
And it's a very weird kind of spaced out thing, because I read something to the effect of they've done the taping for the third season, but it doesn't air till sometime in 2017. Can you hold somebody under contract when you're not using them to do anything? Really?
Right, because he's already done his work. He's already put in his tapings, and the stuff is so taped so far in advance. I mean, they've taped stuff that will air a year from now.
Yeah.
So as far as I know, he did have an out on his contract. So a lot of people are feeling as though he will be in the WWE before too long. But will he be there for the Global Series or not? The way I see it, if they can have Ricochet versus Will Ospreay in the finals of the Best of the Super Juniors, they're going to try to do that because that's just such a dream match. It was a match that was a lot of people were calling, match of WrestleMania weekend. So we're going to have to wait and see where things go with those two guys. Keep your eyes out for both of them. So anyway, incredible match. Kushida ends up winning with the hoverboard lock after many back and forth attempts.
Where he literally caught Ospreay off the top rope into an armbar.
And then after the match, they do another one of these post-match setup things. And you hear the even before you can see who it is. And Jushin Thunder Liger, who I believe was actually at ringside.
I know he was at ringside. I can't remember what he was doing.
Yeah, I think he was actually at ringside, as in support of Kushida, because he oftentimes will be. And what he said, he got into the ring and said that, basically, can Kushida carried the junior division to the heights that Liger carried it to in the mid-90s in his day, which some people will think is quite braggadocious, but it's actually fact. I mean, when you look at the greatest grossing time of New Japan, it is during that mid-90s time when it was almost like neck and neck being pushed as IWGP Championship, IWGP Junior Championship during the days of Ultimo, during the days of El Samurai, during the days even a little bit before that of, Black Tiger 2, of Chris Benoit, Pegasus Kid, great Sasuke. It was just an all-star golden age of the junior championship, and it was really treated as one of the big drawing points. So Liger gets on the mic and says, can you carry it to that? Now that you're the ace of this generation, can you carry it to the levels I did? And then makes the challenge, and Kushida, very much the babyface champion, says, I respect you, and I look forward to this match. So,
and I want to see it.
I think it's great. Well, Liger can still go. That's the thing.
Yeah, at 51 years old, he can still do it.
And when you put him in those big match situations, he always delivers. So Kushida is like one of the best of that style in the world right now. And I really look forward to this. And I love when they tell the old Rocky story, of the old veteran coming back for one last run. And hell, you could even put the belt on Liger for a while if you really wanted to.
If you did, yeah.
I think it could be something that actually draws for them pretty well.
If they want to try it one more time. Although I get the sense they really want to push Kushida.
Yeah, and they have been, and they've been investing in him. Yeah. And so, again, another great match here under Kushida's belt. Will Ospreay, to the best of my knowledge, and he has said it, will be in the Best of the Super Junior tournament. So it all depends on how things go from there and what his decisions are. I know they're crazy about him. As I say, Canyon Ceman, William Regal, were at a few of his matches, or at least one of his matches during WrestleMania weekend. Everybody's hot for this kid. He's 22 years old with offers on the table from the two biggest companies in the world. So that's pretty incredible.
There's a bidding war.
Exactly. They're both trying to lock him down for this summer. So where does he end up? We'll find out. Now, also you mentioned the junior tag division and the finish of that match. How did you like that match? I thought those two teams work really well together, and this one didn't disappoint at all.
No, I liked it too. It clearly looks like they've worked together before. There was really good timing. There wasn't a lot of missteps or anything, and the match went really well. And the only reason I said I get the sense that Ricochet is leaving is why do you take the belts off him and Seidel if he's not?
Right, and it also had been rumored for a little while that they were looking for a new partner for Seidel. So everything's kind of pointing to the same thing. Now, Ricochet did go on Twitter and say that he will not be in the Global Series for WWE because he will be in Japan doing the tournaments for them. So it all depends on if he's just saying that, because I know WWE's pretty strict about all that stuff. They really do want guys to fave it until the bitter end because they don't want it getting out before. They want to be in control of what gets out and when it gets out.
So it's very likely that Ricochet could be BSing Twitter, and he's going to be in the Global Series anyway.
Right. He did say he will be in Japan for the Best of the Super Junior tournament. Big problem with this, again, can we just please keep the belts on somebody?
Yeah, I don't know.
Anybody? They're all good teams. Just pick one.
But do you find, and I hate to say this about New Japan because it's all really good matches, but do you find with those 3 or 4 top teams that are floating around that it's getting a little stale because we've seen all the matches already?
Absolutely. They need new blood. They need new teams. They need to do something with that division. And it ain't even the junior heavyweight division, but it seems like they're doing more to bring in outsiders for that division. They're doing more to, I guess, create new stars for that division. Whereas, with the tag division, it's the Bucks and it's Roppongi and Seidel and Ricochet were something new, but it's very unfortunate that it looks like they're going to be breaking up. Anyway,
and Red Dragon, of course.
Of course,
too.
Red Dragon, Ring of Honor guys coming in. And there's other teams that you could use. I mean, Alex Shelley, although in Ring of Honor right now, he's still a New Japan talent. Yeah. So he's just on loan right now to Ring of Honor. With certain titles in New Japan, they're just a hot potato. Also, the never openweight 6-man titles, which have just changed multiple times since January the 4th.
I believe the answer was 4 or 5.
Right, 4 or 5 times since January the 4th. This match that they had on Invasion Attack, I really enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought it was a great chemistry. You had Michael Elgin, the superpower guy. You had Tanahashi, who's just great. He's a little bit of everything. You had the Young Bucks, who are the Young Bucks. You had Kenny Omega, who's Kenny Omega, and then the return of Yoshitatsu, a really powerful,
emotional return,
a great video that they played, showing the X-rays and everything like that, showing the Styles Clash, and a very emotional return for this guy that people didn't even know if he'd ever walk again. So the fact that they brought him back and they put the belts on these three, that was a great little feel-good story. What was not a feel-good story was Nick Jackson doing the Jeff Hardy swan dive off the balcony and landing on Cody Hall.
And then Cody Hall didn't move.
Who, because of his height, we've seen this spot a million times. Everybody kind of puts their arms out and they catch you. You're in the middle of it all. But unfortunately, just with this and with the height and everything like that, and the height that Nick was jumping from, he just landed right on Cody Hall, followed his face right down, and it was a real serious situation. There was nothing kayfabe about what you saw there. That was 100% real. I was not listening to the English commentary for that match, but I heard Steve Corino was pretty It
was very he's not moving, and they're bringing out the backboard. And as soon as you heard the backboard, and they cut away to it for a second, and it was okay, this is not good now.
And there's that moment where everybody's starting to get up and they're starting to head to the ring, and it's kind of unclear who knows and who doesn't know that something's seriously wrong here. Yeah. But then there is that moment on camera where Kenny Omega goes over, and I think he goes to kick Elgin. Mm-hmm. And he kicks Elgin, and then you can tell he almost mid-kick that he looks down at Cody Hall, and you hear Elgin say something. You can see his mouth moving. We got something real serious going on here. So kudos to all of these guys for carrying on, in this moment of things being so unclear as to how serious the situation was and having to finish a match. That's got to be one of the hardest things to do.
Has there been any update on Cody Hall? Do we know anything?
It was a real scary situation. He couldn't move his arms or legs at that point, and he is walking. And, so it's not anything like he's paralyzed or anything like that. He did not have a concussion. The Young Bucks did update the situation. They said he was extremely banged up, but he was able to walk, and he does not have a concussion or any broken bones. So terrible situation, and we're just wishing the best to Cody Hall, who has a ton of potential. Let's face it.
Yeah.
I've been actually pretty impressed with him, not just, in the ring. He's got a lot of athleticism, really, for a guy his size, especially. And I've also just been impressed with him at ringside as sort of the bodyguard lately. I think he's been good. So we're wishing him the best, a speedy recovery, and hopefully we'll see him back in the ring and back at ringside real soon. After that six-man match, they did have Bad Luck Fale come down and attack Tanahashi. So once again, they want to keep him out of the world title mix for now. And, he's been able to carry Bad Luck Fale to some pretty decent matches. So, again, you can't win them all, right?
No, you can't.
The main event, the backstory of this one being that Naito was a bit of a hand-picked talent from New Japan a few years back. They saw him as one of the main baby faces going forward. Not necessarily the baby face. He wasn't going to be the guy, at least right away, but he was completely hand-picked as, one of the top baby faces. And he won the G1 Climax in 2013, defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi, who was the ace and still is, really still is the biggest draw in New Japan. So he won the G1 that year, and the winner, of course, gets the title match at the Tokyo Dome versus the champion. And the champion was Kazuchika Okada, much as it was at Invasion Attack this past weekend. Unfortunately, though, for Tetsuya Naito, the crowd didn't see in him quite what the New Japan brass saw in him. And there was, believe it or not, from the polite Japanese audiences, at least in comparison to what we have here, right?
Yes.
There was boos for Naito. And there was a bit of backlash. There was a pushback on Naito and the fans.
Okay, now,
go ahead.
They mentioned on English commentary that there was a fan vote at one point.
That's true. They had a fan vote as to what should be the main event of the Tokyo Dome show in 2013. So it was Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the IWGP Intercontinental title, or it was Kazuchika Okada versus Tetsuya Naito for the IWGP Heavyweight title, and the crowd actually voted for the IC title.
Okay.
So, again, it was Nakamura and Tanahashi, like the two biggest stars, so, they didn't really stand a chance. And once they make it a fan vote, then we all know how the fans are going to vote. But it was just more fuel for Naito to be like, what the fuck? You know, I won the G1, and you're going to put me in the semi-main event against the world champion. Like, this is ridiculous, right?
Yep.
So then, after he goes in there with Okada, they have a great match. I don't know that it was better than the main event, but it still was an excellent match. And he did not win the belt. Okada was able to retain the title. So then, here we go, and the time moves on. Naito gets pushed out of the world title picture completely. He's no longer a challenger. And he's working that sort of upper mid card.
Kind of in this weird Bermuda Triangle of New Japan.
Yeah. He's like in the, who would be a good example in WWE? Like a Kevin Owens or a Cesaro. Those guys that are killing it on the upper mid, but they're just not ever breaking into the world title mix.
Yeah.
And that was Naito for a long time. And then at the Tokyo Dome last year, he actually was like third from the top against AJ Styles.
Yes.
So still as a babyface, though, still kind of floundering as this babyface, and he does the job to Styles at that Wrestle Kingdom.
That's right.
Wrestle Kingdom 9. So then here we are a year later, and Naito over this time has turned into this character, and we've put him over. He was a Whammy Award winner, for God's sake.
He was.
Performer of the Year. I mean, we've covered very much in detail, for those that listen to this show, the transformation with Naito, the new character for Naito, Los Ingobernables, which translates loosely into the Ungovernables.
Yes.
They became this act for Naito, which was kind of started in CMLL, and again, they have the relationship with CMLL. So over in Mexico, they kind of started this thing with him and a wrestler named Rush, and La Sombra, who is now signed to WWE. Anyways, this whole transformation has happened with Naito to being this real prick.
Just an asshole, but you like it.
Yeah, and he's different than a lot of heels, too. Like, he'll do something really despicable, and then he'll just laugh about it. Like
he's just twisted, yeah.
He's not out there making the mean faces and the scowls and everything. He's kind of just indifferent to everything, and then he'll see an opportunity to be mean or just to be an asshole, and he'll do it. And then he'll just be so amused with himself. And that's really the Naito character. But the whole faction has become this huge money draw now for New Japan, not just in Japan, but also, again, like here in North America, ProWrestlingTees.com and all the places you can now buy the New Japan merchandise. It's become one of the big things. And
it's the T-shirts.
Right. And then you look at the group, and they just are cool looking. They're wearing the all-black suits. Bushi's got his mask on with a black suit. Always cool to see a guy with a mask on. Evil, although when he's on his own, you know, sometimes you could say it's a little over the top, and it's like he stopped at the costume store before he went to the wrestling match and just bought all the gimmicks he could. But
totally.
But when he's just the guy, you know, the enforcer there in the black suit, I mean, he's got a great look.
Yeah, it totally works.
And he's actually a very good wrestler. You'll have these two guys, the backups, you know, the heaters, in the black suits, and then Naito wearing the all white, you know, Saturday Night Fever suit. So they're just kind of a cool, interesting, weird comic book villain type of group that are just completely despicable. I mean, they cheat the whole match, all kinds of outside interference, but it completely works for them. And so this match going into now, Okada is the big babyface centerpiece of New Japan and the world champion, and it's finally Okada's time after, you know, he was always playing second fiddle to Tanahashi. Now Tana's stepping out of the world title mix and the main event spotlight for now. And we got this match with Naito, who won the New Japan Cup. So the winner of the New Japan Cup gets to challenge any of the three major singles titles, whether it be Never, IC, or IWGP World, at Invasion Attack. So Naito won this opportunity. They go into this match, and the crowd from the very beginning is clearly on the side of Tetsuya Naito.
Yes.
So
like deathly loud.
Right. And not only that, but actually a section of the crowd is booing Kazuchika Okada.
Yes.
Who is supposed to be The Rock, Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan. And I mean, it was just one of those things where that light bulb just went off in my head immediately. Like, God damn it, why do they just have to be so stubborn about Reigns? Because you have Naito, who the crowd was being forced down their throat. There was a backlash. They booed him. They turned on him. They voted his match be the semi-main event at Wrestle Kingdom. And he got bitter about it. And he started this new gimmick, and he started this new thing, and he became a heel, and he became despicable, and by God, he became more over than the top babyface. So anyways, he's now become this really popular act, even though he's completely despicable. They go in there, they have a really good IWGP World Title match with a lot of interference. Starts usually quite slow. As the match goes on, Okada, although there's all this interference, he's able to overcome it. Again, it's very important for the babyface to be smarter than the heels.
Yes.
And for a lot of this match, he was outsmarting them, even though he was all by himself. And as things went on, we did have some interference in the match from a new member of Los Ingobernables, and it was none other than Sonata. And he was in TNA for quite some time, and he was an X Division champion, I believe.
Oh, that's right.
Protege of Keiji Muto, the great Muta. And he was a big star for Muta over in Wrestle One, which is Muta's promotion. So he's like easily identifiable in Japan as Muta's boy. Bushi is already doing the Green Mist.
Yes.
So how long until we see a great Muta cameo in Los Ingobernables? I was
going to say, does Muta become a member of Los Ingobernables, or does Muta come out and say, what are you stupid kids doing, and do the babyface?
Could do either. I mean,
for one night.
This match, Okada is able to overcome all the outside interference. Eventually this new guy comes in, gives him a TKO, gives him a moonsault, again, paying homage to his mentor, the great Muta. And he's the new member, and Okada is still able to kick out of a pin attempt from Naito, so he's still, the babyface is still kept incredibly strong. But then eventually he's just been worn down by all this interference, and then before you know it, goes for the tombstone. A bit of a struggle there with Naito, and Naito hits the big finish. 1, 2, 3. We have a new champion for so long. 5 years. It's been Tanahashi, it's been Okada, it's been AJ Styles, and that's it for that entire belt. It's just they've been trading it back and forth. So finally someone else has broken that top mix.
And I find interesting it was the guy they wanted all along.
And it was the guy they wanted all along. What was really interesting after the match...
I was going to ask you about a few of these.
A few things that happened after the match. We did have another one of these situations because Chaos came down to the ring. Los Ingobernables, all 4 of them now, we got 4 members now, all got in the ring after the match and started beating down Okada. Again, just a big gang beating. And Chaos came out. Goto and Ishii came out. Los Ingobernables hit the road. And then Naito steps back in the ring, and Ishii steps forward. And the crowd, once again, ooh. So, anyways, it was very clear from the setup after that match that Ishii will be the next challenger from the IWGP World Title.
And I'm happy for that, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to see this smug Naito get his head knocked off by Ishii?
That's right.
So, again, a perfect challenger. I'm very happy for Ishii to see him right in that top mix right now. He deserves it. He's a hell of a worker, and I think he's somebody that they need to do more with. After Ishii leaves and the challenge has been made and Naito has his celebration, he takes the IWGP title, was acting real wacky and taking the photos and the photo op and all the stuff that they do in New Japan when you win a belt. And then he's presented the title, and he kicks Red Shoes, beats him up. I think he gave him a drop kick. So he just keeps that going, that he's not going to be softened by this title win. And then he takes the IWGP title, he looks at it, and he throws it. Not just throws it down like
but just threw it a good
Shane McMahon. And it wasn't like a Shane Douglas just drop it. It was throw it up in the air and just let it fall in the ring, and he just walks out.
And the whole crowd was like, there was that again.
Oh, and it was such a big deal. Like, that's a very, very prestigious title.
Well, even in English, Carino was like, what is he doing?
So they definitely set some things up, and they've gone in some new directions, and they've got some new, fresh matches coming up soon. So can't really complain too much about how they booked Invasion Attack, and the action certainly delivered, no question.
Absolutely, it did.
Another really good show, not on the level of Invasion Attack, but for free on your television, it was a hell of a 3-hour show, I thought, was Monday Night Raw this past week. Regardless of how we got here, which makes no sense at all.
Yeah, we could, that could be a 3-hour diatribe about how we got here. But
don't know how we got here, don't know why we're here, don't know week to week why he's still here.
But I'm happy we're here.
But we're here, and how refreshing is it to have a babyface GM running Raw?
And a GM that's not on every segment. He's on once or twice in 3 hours, that's it. And it's not for 20 minutes every time.
So what were some of the highlights for you on this past week?
The opening match.
Definitely.
The opening match was crazy. Cesaro and Kevin Owens had an amazing, close to 25-minute war. And Cesaro again looks like a world beater, and I'm hoping they push him. But
how do you like the new gimmick?
I love it. I think it's really fun. I like the tearaway suit.
Yeah, me too. I do.
And I think that you could always have more matches with Cesaro and Owens at some point. But I know what their plan. I guess their plan is, at least for Payback, is Cesaro and The Miz.
Do you ever do that gimmick with the cucumbers?
No. Have you ever done the gimmick with the cucumbers?
No.
No.
I've thought of it.
Did you?
But then I get hungry.
Yeah, I was gonna say we eat them, right?
Cucumbers are good, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you on that.
I didn't like them back in the day as much, but I really do now in adulthood. You know.
Yeah, in adulthood, especially if they've been, soaked in vinegar and garlic for a couple hours.
Sell those at the Rogers Center.
That's right.
Charge me $20 for a little bowl of those. But other stuff from Raw, AJ and Sami Zayn.
Oh my God.
Hell of a TV match.
How did you give that away for free?
I'm kind of glad they did.
And the third major thing that came out of this week, we have a tag tournament.
A hell of a tag tournament too, isn't it?
It's not the deepest thing I've ever seen.
Who do you think ends up being in the finals of this one, or who do you think's going to win it?
Oh, geez, you know what? Part of me, honestly, is leaning toward the Vaudevillains.
Really?
But I don't know. I think it's a heel team who wins. I don't think a babyface team wins.
Vaudevillains versus the New Day. It's wacky, but it could be fun.
Either that or the Dudleys, but we've already seen that.
Enzo and Cass? They're pretty over.
Yeah, you could do that, but then you have two babyface teams. I don't think they want. I don't think that's the plan right now.
Yeah, that may not be the best choice for the New Day.
Like I don't think it's the Ascension.
No.
And the Social Outcasts are out, so
true.
And I don't think you're going to do Goldust and Truth.
Probably the Dudleys then, eh?
WWE logic would say the Dudleys. If you're doing something to build,
are the Usos in it?
Oh wait, yeah, the Usos are in too. They beat Social Outcasts.
So you could do that one.
You could do that too. Yeah, that's true. Although I got the sense, and that was the other thing that happened, Anderson and Gallows may have something to say about the Usos going any further.
What'd you think of their debut? A huge pop, I thought, from the audience.
I liked it. I thought it was done well. I think it needs a little more explanation, clearly, but I imagine we'll get there.
Did you draw the same parallels that I draw, or that I drew?
Okay, they're jumping the Usos. Usos are related to Roman Reigns. This is public knowledge. This is WWE television knowledge. AJ, all former Bullet Club. They're acknowledging Bullet Club on WWE television. I don't know what that means. Do you find that intriguing?
Well, especially the fact that they're like full on saying like the Bullet Club came on Raw, like on WWE.com.
Yeah, it says.
And this has been one of the big talking points of the week. Really, is just what exactly is going on with that. A lot of people seem to feel like, the automatic assumption we make is that they've bought the trademark. It could really honestly be a situation where WWE's just using it. If somebody comes after them, if they get sent, they'll figure it out then, they'll drop it, they'll change it, or if they think they can fight it, they'll fight it.
I think it'd be stupid to fight it. It'd be smart for at least New Japan and WWE to work out some kind of deal over the stupid trademark if it's an issue.
It's such a money-making thing, though. That's, and it's not just a stupid trademark. For New Japan, it would have to be the right price, I think.
Yeah, no, I know.
So it's a matter of how much are they wanting to. I think WWE can more than make it back, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Now, let's talk about Roman and AJ. Again, another very unique dynamic here with these two, and going into this pay-per-view. How do you see this one playing out? I know we're still a few weeks away, but
and based on
I think it'll be one of the better Roman Reigns matches. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, that goes without saying, I think, but I'm not sure. I can't imagine they're going to put it on AJ right away. Unless they've really gotten cold on Roman again.
I hate doing any fantasy booking with WWE right now.
Because in any other scenario, other than Roman Reigns, who the fans hate regardless, the Bullet Club are heels. In any other scenario.
In traditional wrestling logic, yeah, but that's not the way things are anymore. The other funny thing, too, on the .com was that they were calling them the hashtag Bullet Club. You don't think that they could just be getting around something by calling it the hashtag Bullet Club?
They could. By including the hashtag, you're getting around the copyright.
That's awful.
But it's legal. I hate to break it to you, it's legal.
Anyways, long story short, it's pretty simple to look at that match and feel like you know the way things are going to go. And truthfully, if I'm just going by old school wrestling logic, it would be pretty obvious that Gallows and Anderson are going to help AJ win the title. In today's day and age of WWE, it probably means that Roman's going to go over clean and Gallows and Anderson are never going to be associated with AJ at all.
Well, and I was happy to see that the announcers actually acknowledged it.
They did.
And I'm happy to see that the WWE as a whole, they're not being ignorant, they're not being as stupid to their fans as they once were. They're acknowledging New Japan and saying it on the TV and mentioning the IWGP tag titles and everything else.
You know, New Japan is under attack, you could say, by WWE. But it's still interesting that they're willing to mention them and put them over and still show them more respect than anyone else. I mean, they're not mentioning Ring of Honor on the air.
No.
They're not mentioning TNA on the air. But They are mentioning New Japan, and they are mentioning IWGP, and they are talking about the Bullet Club. I think it's time that we take this one home. What do you got planned for the weekend anyway?
You know, my goal for this weekend, we finally have some warm weather up here.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful. We're talking like 20-plus degrees. If for those people that use the other system, closer to 70. And it's going to get warm for the first time in 6 months. We've been inside for way too long. We all need to get outside.
Well, let's do that right now, and let's take it on home, Sean. From myself and from the Commissioner Man, thank you for listening to War Weekly here on the Spreaker Web Radio Network and at our website, Wrestling Audio Revolution, and the War Hotline, 605-562-5189, free exclusively to our U.S. listeners. We want to say peace, we want to say love, and Sean Cunningham, as we always do, why don't you tell them the rest?
Wrestling Audio Revolution.